Alright, so this is a Dewalt DCN692 nail gun. Now when these are first on the market, on the UK market, they were the DCN690. The DCN690s did make it to the US market, just not in large numbers. Were very quickly replaced by the DCN90s N1, which was kind of a modified version. The DCN691 was on the market for a very short time. And the current model for 2015 is the DCN692. Now these came out in late 2014. They all look about the same, but there's been little improvements in the feed mechanism. Now I got this one used on eBay to replace the DCN690 that had been stolen from me last October. It uses the Dewalt 20-volt batteries, and they recommend that when you do use one of these with a Dewalt 20-volt battery, that you use one of the higher capacity ones, this one being the 4 amp hour battery. They have recently come out with a 5 amp hour battery, which puts Dewalt temporarily at the top of the food chain on battery power for this style of tool, even compared to some 18-volt tools. It uses Pazload nails with no modification. So if you're the previous owner of a Pazload nail gun, one of the Pazload Cordless Framing Nailers, don't get rid of your nails. Keep all your nails, just get more. And you don't need to buy the gas cartridges, obviously, because this is electric only. You can use the long ones or the short ones. Now, earlier models of these had a lot of complaints in the UK where they were saying it was bad or it was rubbish or there was something wrong with it because it wasn't sinking big nails in all the way. Now that was less of an issue when it hit the US market. It weren't the same complaints in the US market. The reason is the majority of your handyman construction contractor type guys in the UK are doing remodels, refits on older buildings, and quite frequently are trying to get nails in old lumber that's become time hardened. So that lumber is a lot harder than new lumber and pine that we're going to be making stuff out of in the United States. What I'm doing here, this is a pallet. Now this pallet quite likely came from China because it came with some equipment. But it's made out of relatively new rough cut lumber. You'll see that there's little spikes on this because I got this nail gun used. It didn't have the little rubber pad thing. But again, this is a framer, okay? We're talking about raw framing. Now, the other thing about the DCN692, which is the current model compared to the DCN690, which was the early introduction model in the UK market one, is this power setting right here. Now, on my old one, I did some reviews on earlier online. I couldn't find this switch. Got hot rodders around. It's getting to be that season. And what this is, if you see this in the camera, we basically have a high power and a lower power setting. The 2 is used only for the longer nails or harder wood. So we've got a power setting there. Now in some of the others there was a power setting back here. Now that's down here. This is basically just for clearing out jams. And then we've got a depth setting right here where you turn this and you can kind of set a little bit of your nail depth. But mainly you've got a power setting here which changes things. We've also got a bump fire mode setting, which is this right here. That's on single fire. So let's say on single fire. Now we had single fire on relatively low power. We can see this nail head didn't get all the way in. What I'm finding is I like to run that on higher power, single fire, and then we had a full sink. Now a lot of this has to do with holding this right up to the wood hard, and maybe we're not going to get that, right? So you got to hold it in there, really get it in. So not getting full sink, I think it may have something to do with this being harder wood. Play around a little bit with the adjustment. Now the other way we're going to test this is I'm going to go with some different nails. That was a relatively short nail. You see that we got to hold it up there hard to get a full penetration. Let's see what happens when we use a longer nail. There you can see, if I let up on that just a little bit, we're not getting the full depth. That's one of the things you got to look out for. The other thing we'd look out for is the fact that I've only got one bar on my battery, so I probably would get better performance out of having the battery better charged. We can show that in some future videos, but we're showing how this thing works. When I tried it earlier, I wasn't having that issue, but a lot of that has to do with using a battery that's fully charged and not using the smaller 20-volt batteries that come with like some of the drills and some of the other power tools. You gotta be running full power. If I switch this over to low power on the, still using the larger nails, we're not gonna get full penetration. Oh, you can see what happened there. Switch over to high power. And of course, we got more penetration. I'm also holding it straight in. But we want to use those with the full power battery. We'll have a follow-up demonstration with that. But I'm going to keep this video and upload it so that you can see what's going on with these things. The benefit of it is the speed and convenience and not having to haul the air compressor around. You have a little selection of batteries around or nails and stuff. And for the handyman and the guy who's going to go and do a little bit of work, you're always ready to do a lot of nailing, and you're not necessarily swinging a hammer, kind of developing a carpal tunnel, or having some of the risk of smacking a finger. It's generally a safer tool. You can also go over to bump fire mode, and what that means is our motor starts when we pull the trigger, and then it's activated by bumping. Now what happens on that, with the reduced power on a battery, you see we weren't getting full penetration. That also has to do with the fact that this is probably, it's a harder wood than common pine, and used on its pallet, it was probably made in China. So we'll show more details on this later on. I just thought I'd do a little introduction on the DCN692, and probably as I'm working the upgrade on the 20-volt Dewalt tools, I don't have that many right now. We're going to show more of the rationale and the reasons and how to upgrade, let's say, from the 18-volt power tools to the 20, who does it, why they're doing it. A lot of contractors upgrading now. But we're also seeing some of the 20-volt stuff on the used market at okay prices. It's just not bargain stuff the way the 18-volt is going. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're 18-volt, which they're still making, they're still selling those, still producing them. They kind of compete with some of the lower brands like Ryobi, while the 20-volt is going to be DeWalt's premium line for the foreseeable future.